Today I'm talking about becoming CEO and the few things that matter. How do we step into the truest, most impactful version of ourselves as leaders? If you're an owner, which most people are in here, that's pretty easy. You just go to email settings, scroll to signature, and right there, update that bad boy, you know? If it's not your company, don't do this. That would be weird. Let me give a little intro of myself in case you don't know who I am. I'm Steve Welty. I'm owner of Good Life Property Management. So we manage about 900 houses and condos in San Diego County and a few small apartment buildings. Bottom left is a picture of me doing musical theater. That was a big part of my life back in the day. I learned to sing, act, dance. Me above in the 90s when I was too cool to sing, act, dance anymore. There's me writing some music with my producer, Jonathan. Music's always been a big part of my life, and I don't know, COVID hit and I stopped writing a little bit, but it always kind of comes and goes, so I'll be back at it. But I've done a bunch of albums, and me and my dad catching some lunker tunas, and then that's me and my wife, Courtney, and my son, Miles. He is about 3 years old, and they're my everything, and we live in North PB. If I had to pick the few things to tell you about, there would be one person who I do quote more than anything, Jim Rohn. And I love Jim Rohn because he's all strategy. There's no software, there's no email. I mean, it's all strategy. And so I remember listening to him early on in my career, and he said, in any endeavor in life, there's not 40 things you need to do. There's about a half a dozen. And that really fired me up because I'm a simplifier. There's a few things I do. I do a daily 3. So what are the 3 most important things I have to do today? And it can be 5, 3 to 5. And I focus on the first thing until I finish that, then I go to the next thing. And if I do the 3, I put a W, I won the day, right? So a big part of being CEO and being leader of a company is confidence. And trust me, I have to remind myself to be confident. You know, I look at the people I admire and I'm like, they have 2,000% confidence. And people look to me to be confident. And so I don't want to play a game where I'm constantly losing. So when I make a to-do list of 20 things and I only get half done, it zaps your willpower. And so 3 things, boom, W, won the day, go surf, go do whatever, you know? I mean, if anything you do after that is just bonus time. So the daily 3, and then I have the weekly 3. So on Friday, I decide what are the top 3 things I have to get done next week? What are the top 3 results? And then there's a weekly review, monthly review. So there's just a lot of self-reflection. My 3 accountabilities at my company are vision, culture, and big ideas. So if I'm not doing these things, I'm not doing my job. Over the years, I've set up my Trello board where it's vision, culture, big ideas. And so then I sort my to-do list kind of in those buckets. It was interesting. We did our yearly leadership team planning session. Who has a planning session? Does anyone do a planning session each year with your team? Okay, cool. Leadership team. Excellent. And we did this exercise where we asked each other, what was the biggest strength and the biggest weakness each person had? And it's a super cool exercise. And you got to have a good foundation of trust already. But everyone said the same thing, weakness for me. They said, Steve, you have a tendency to get caught up in tactical sales and marketing stuff. And we need you to elevate and focus on what's ahead of us, not what's in front of us. And I was like, wow, who said that? Raise, you were incredible. And my guy Adam said that, my business development manager put it really well. And so I took that to heart. And it was a great reflection point for me because you know how it is. I'm when we start out, if I could just have someone to help with prospective tenants, I can't take these prospective tenant calls. If I could just have someone help me with tenants. If I just had someone to help me with owners, if I could teach someone to talk to owners the way I can talk to them. You know, and then it's if I could just focus on sales and marketing, and then now they don't want me there. And so I'm like, this is awesome, you know? And I always want to be part of that, but we'll get more into that in a little bit. But this is also backed up. Hopefully this will play. I don't know. I didn't test it, but.
I'm going to be your instincts. Kunu will be your instincts. Don't do anything. Don't try to surf. Don't do it. The less you do, the more you do. Let's see it pop up. Pop it up. That's not it at all. Do less. Get down. Try less. Do it again. Pop up. Nope. Too slow. Do less. Pop up. Pop up. You're doing too much. Do less. Pop down. Pop up now. Stop. Get down. Get down there. Remember, don't do anything. Nothing. Pop up. Well, you got to do more than that because you're just laying. It looks like you're boogie boarding. Just do it. Feel it. Pop up. Yeah, that wasn't quite it, but we're gonna figure it out there. Let's go surfing. Come on.
So it's also reinforced by the great Hawaiian sage Kunu in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I love that movie. But the less you do, the more you do. Like, I had to throw that in there when I was preparing for this because that always goes through my head. And the interesting question that a lot of this presentation, there's like these different inflection points. And one of the coolest things I heard that kind of led me on this journey is, how can I achieve an outcome with the least amount of effort possible? And I'll say it again, how can I achieve an outcome with the least amount of effort possible? And it depends how you interpret that. You might think, well, what are you, just lazy? It's like, yeah, that's what I asked myself in high school and middle school and whatnot. But that really resonates with me because there's a lot to do in life. There's a lot of places to be. There's church, there's community, there's, personal time, there's personal development, there's hanging at the beach. And so if I can make a bigger impact by doing less, then that just means there's more cool stuff to do. So I've always been really interested in that. And also probably because I was raised to outwork everyone. That's how my dad raised me. Like, he's 75, he gets up at 2 a.m, works for 8 hours before anyone gets up. And he just always taught me that's how you get to where you're going. And although I respect that, I really felt like there had to be a better way because that wasn't sustainable for me. So I like to, see what other ways are out there. When I looked back at my career, I said, okay, what are the few things, Steve? The presentation says a few. So mission, me, and my team are the 3 kind of buckets. And the mission is, where are we going and why should I care? Why should anyone care about where I'm going? What's the mission? It could be the vision, the purpose, the core purpose. It's called a lot of different things, but what's the mission? And then me, who do I need to become in order to achieve this mission? And then the team is, who do I need to help get me there? And so I pumped energy into each of these things over and over and over again, and it started to create kind of like a flywheel and started to deliver some results. And so we'll get into this. My core mission in life from an early age has always been freedom. And I'll just preface that we're all peers here. Like, take what's helpful and leave the rest. Like, I forget who said it, but he said something like, what spells success for one man can spell disaster for like another person. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't pretend to, have a roadmap here, but I will share some stories. So freedom's always been my core value. And I don't need to be the richest person. In fact, I don't think about that, but I want to be happy and free. Okay? Happiness and freedom. And it's also my 3-year-old son's number 1 core value, surprisingly. He is very into freedom, and, so we get along. But back in 2006, who started in real estate like right before the crash? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So 2006, killing it. Who remembers their first 5-figure check? Oh, that 10 grand check? Oh, you're rich. How rich were you, right? It was like life-changing. And, I'm at the beach. I can remember just like back when you could drink on the beach, I'm like, life's good. Like, cashed a $12,000 check. 4 months later, I was broke. The tide went out. I was naked, right? And so I didn't really have a business. And so I was drinking too much. My life was a mess. I was partying. I was 27. And I had no money, so I responded to an ad for a personal assistant from this French entrepreneur in Carlsbad. And he was a hard ass, man. And he wanted a licensed assistant, a real estate licensee. I don't know. Well, I guess because he wanted me to manage his property manager. He had like 50 units. Can you imagine me, like, as a personal assistant, knowing nothing, being your micromanager? I feel bad for that guy. Like, I hope he's not here. Is he here? I apologize. But yeah, so I was working for him and I learned a lot about how he managed properties. And I just remember sitting in the Albertsons parking lot, eating one of those pre-made sandwiches one day and like putting the mustard on and like on my 30-minute break. And I'm just like, God, I just want to make $50,000. Like, how do you make $50,000? I'm lowering my standards. Like, just 50. Like, how are people making 50 grand? I felt like I'd put in a lot of work to that point, and I wasn't there. I was back to square one. And what I thought was a lot of work was like 4 years, right? But then what I tell younger people is like all the time, it takes 10 years, right? Everything takes 10 years. But I didn't know that at the time. And so I was listening to Jim Rohn again, and he said the 9 words that would change my life. He said, if you will change, everything will change for you. If you will change, everything will change for you. And so this was like an explosion in my consciousness, because I always thought it was the economy or SDSU. They lie to you and say that you're going to get a job, but then you go into sales. You know, like, I remember I was at some party, I graduated. I was like, what are you going to do? He's like, where'd you go to school? That's just you. He's like, oh, you'll go into sales. And I was like, oh, they didn't tell you that? There's nothing wrong with sales though, right? Yeah, so I knew I needed to change. It wasn't, anything else but me. And I knew the first change I had to make. Free bracelet, if anyone can guess what this building is. All right, you don't have to out yourself. This is the North Shores Delano Club in Pacific Beach, otherwise known as Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went in there on a court card back when I was 27 off of a DUI. And, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I knew instinctually that I wouldn't be able to do anything in life of meaning if I didn't solve that problem. Because I was drinking heavily on Friday, drinking heavily on Saturday. Sunday, I couldn't get off the couch. Monday, I could barely get off the couch. Tuesday, And I remember thinking one day, I'm like, that's like half of my life. If I spend half of my life, unable to operate, what kind of life is that? And so I went to this place, and I remember sitting there one day, and I was thinking, all right, God, these people seem a lot more worse off than me. I don't know if this is the right spot for me, I just don't know. And I remember looking over at the wall, and the Lord's Prayer was on the wall. It said, God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's a great prayer. If you're out of prayers, I can't think of one. That's a good one. And I remember the SCW was bolded, and I was like, SC, Stephen Charles Welty. That's my initials. Okay, God, I'll stay. I was like, I'll stay. And so I got sober, worked for this hard-ass guy at the same time, French entrepreneur, went into business with Danielle, who's not here right now, but she's a former business partner of mine, started doing property management, and just like my mission was hustle. It's like just hustle. You know how it is when you start a business, it's just survive, hustle. And, after a few years of working with Danielle, we went our separate ways, and I started Good Life in 2013. I had two employees and about 150 doors, and a dream just to kind of like have freedom to do things my way, create something great. And so I remember I went to lunch with Tammy Bryant, who is a former SD NARPM president, right? And she's great. And I remember we're sitting at lunch, and I'd kind of heard about NARPM a little bit, dabbled. And I had this list of questions for her, and I was like, hey, Tammy, do you use Appfolio work orders? And she's like, yes. Do you? And I was like, yes. No, I don't. She's like, why not? I'm like, well, I have my journal, and I just write, I do the turnover, I write everything down, and it's working. She's like, that's not sustainable. She was like, looked at me like, she's like, you got to come to this NARPM place, you go to these conferences, trust me. And so anyway, we all know in the room what happens then. Like when you first find out about NARPM, it's incredible. And I got all the systems, the processes, all that stuff that's so important. And then we just started, kind of taking off. And then we got here, which is the old 400-door small room, I guess, or the ceiling. Yeah, I've heard it say it's like 300 doors or even 250. I think it depends maybe on your client type or whatever, but I couldn't advance past that. And it was really frustrating. It's like you get to this point to where the way you're doing things, doesn't work, and you have to transform again. And I found out there's actually a word for it. It's called the paradox of success. And basically what it means is that what got you to your current level of success is often the thing that holds you back from the next level. I was stressed, I was working too much. My girlfriend's about to leave me. Business was good, but I was just way too busy doing way too many things. Luckily, I ran into this man, Jason Goldberg, and Jason is a business coach, and he was speaking at a NARPM event, and he was a keynote. And I remember his keynote was being versus doing, and like how if you don't solve being, doing like doesn't matter. And I was like, wow, you have a lot of courage to give that presentation here. Like that might have flew over people's heads. I don't know. Like it was really like spiritual, but like I don't know. I kind of resonated with it. And so he gave a free talk. Like he said, hey, I'll talk to you for an hour, anyone in the audience. So I took him up on it. He said, Steve, what's up, man? What do you want to work on? I said, well, it's actually a personal thing. So my girlfriend, Courtney, she's mentioned that how much I work isn't working for her. And, I want to be there for her, but I'm building this business and eventually I'll get it to a place where I can step away a little bit. But for instance, when I get off work, she wants to spend time, and that's when I like to do business-related reading. That's like, you can't read books during the workday, right? Like, you got to read after work. And so I like to do that for like a half hour. He's like, okay, so essentially what you're saying is you would spend more time with Courtney, but you believe spending time with her is a detriment to your success. And I said, no, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? And he said, well, that's what you just said, is that you would spend more time with your girlfriend, but you need to be successful. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, holy crap. Sometimes it's so powerful having a coach or a good friend, because have you guys ever heard of Johari's window? It's like 4 boxes, and it's things you know about yourself and things others know about you. It's like X and Y. And there's things you know about yourself and other people know about you. Like, I'm Steve Welty, okay. And there's things you know about yourself other people don't know about you, which there's a lot of that. Then there's things you don't know about yourself that other people know about you. And that's super powerful. And then there's things nobody knows about you and you don't know about yourself. And that's when you have these like crazy kind of moments. But he said, so Steve, I want you to do me a favor. He's like, write this question down on a piece of paper, a Post-it note, and think, put it somewhere you'll see it a lot over a week or so, and then let's have another call. And he gave me another one that changed my life. So he said, if you knew with complete certainty that creating space in your life would allow you to receive limitless success and abundance, what would you do? I get chills still reading that, because creating space, I had never even heard that word. And it was so far from what I was trying to do. I'm trying to get business done. I'm trying to be successful. Like, what are you talking about? But I respected him, and it kind of clicked, and I'm like, I'm out of options. So I guess I'd get up early and just like sit and have coffee for 10 minutes before I did anything. I'd take walks between meetings. I'd schedule less meetings. I'd do yoga. I'd meditate. I'd spend time with Courtney. I'd, work less. And what I ended up learning was the thing that we think is blocking us from getting the thing is often the thing that is like what you need. You know what I mean? And so what Jason taught me, he said, you can't compartmentalize the results of growth. You can't become a better human being and not have that spill over into your business. Like, you can't go surfing once a week and not have that make you be a better leader, or you can't like spend more time with your kids and not have that, like if you grow in one area, it's gonna spill over. And so I went back to rehab, although this time it was entrepreneurial rehab, and it was in the form of a strategic coach program. It's funny, when you start this program, a friend had been recommending it for a long time, and I don't do it anymore. I did it for about 4 years. But they start you all out in the same class. It's a small little class, and everyone's like withdrawing. It's all high performance, people like you guys, like running companies, and jittery, and like, I was like, looking at each other's eyes like, we haven't had a day off in forever, and what's going on, all these dings and buzzes and distractions. And one of the first things they teach you at Coach is the entrepreneurial time system, which breaks your days down into free, focus, and buffer days. And a free day is a 24-hour period from midnight to midnight where you don't do any business and no business-related reading, and you don't talk about business. And yes, 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 right? Insane. Like, it seems so normal to me now, but insane when I first heard it. So thank you, John. And I remember someone asking, well, what if you have a good idea, like in a free day? And I remember Dan, the owner, was like, well, do you have a lot of good ideas? And he was like, well, yeah. He's like, well, then just let it go. If you don't have a lot of good ideas, then write it down for sure. The theme I'm kind of like showing that I've noticed in my journey when I was looking back at this and presenting this presentation, all the biggest level ups almost had nothing to do with business. Like, to this point, it was personal change. I mean, a lot of them did, meeting Tammy, connections and whatnot, but I had to fix me before I could fix my company. And so that's why I put me as one of those like buckets, because it's just such an important bucket. So the rest of the entrepreneurial time system, just so you know, the second day is a buffer day. So the buffer day is when you clean up messes. I love buffer days because it's just like, I check my email, I check into the office, I sign checks, I delegate things, I do my paper stack of my mail, and it's kind of like a fun day because you can be really unproductive or like productive on stuff that's just kind of like cleanup. And then a focus day is 80% of the day is spent on your top 3 money-making activities. So it's like focus. And the importance of the buffer day, I used to think the buffer day was just this day that you get to screw off. It's so you can have a great focus day the next day. And so that time system has been huge, because what ends up happening is every day is a cosmopolitan day. Every day is just whatever happens, I do some focus, and when I'm doing focus work, I'm worried about the buffer work. And when I'm doing buffer work, I'm guilty that I should be doing focus work. And so when each day is just like its own theme, it takes so much anxiety away. And they talk about unique ability, where we're all uniquely gifted at something. And a lot of times it's so innate to us that we don't even see it as a superpower. But take you on a journey to figure that out. I like to just make it really simple. It's like, what do we enjoy? Like, what do you enjoy? What lights you up? And then also having that go down to your team is an entrepreneurial team and a unique ability team, where I don't want to just be doing stuff I want to enjoy. I want you guys to be doing stuff you enjoy. And so also with the entrepreneurial team is, I need you to help make the business better. I don't want you to be in the time and effort economy. I want you to move to the results economy. And that's when you work at Good Life, you get to live in the results economy. But there was one kind of tenet of strategic coach that was super, super meaningful to me. And it was the self-managing company. I was like, oh, that's sexy. I don't even care about the money. Give me the self-managing company. Give me the, give me the company that I can sit on the beach. And I remember at NARPM for a while, there was a lot of presentations about doing like work on the beach. I think it was like when virtual assistants first came around. I've heard you guys that have been in NARPM. And I remember thinking how cool that was. And I remember I was talking to one of my mentors, and he's like, he was in NARPM. He's like, that sounds like hell. And I'm like, why? He's like, I want to be at the beach if I'm at the beach. I don't want to be on the computer. But I remember thinking at the time, like, that sounds pretty nice to me. Like, I'd rather work from there. So it was funny. But how can I make more money when I'm gone than when I'm here? I wanted to save my relationship. I'd lost a relationship prior where I'd shown up, normal day at work, and my girlfriend, who I had just bought a condo with that my dad co-signed on, said, I'm leaving. So I had lost a relationship, and I had no idea that would happen, because I didn't have the presence and the relationship to actually communicate that, to she probably wanted to get married, she probably wanted to do these things or have a baby, and it was just totally gone. So I'm like, I'm gonna have a company, I wanna make an impact, I wanna make more money when I'm gone than when I'm here, I wanna help people grow, it's gonna tick a lot of boxes, save my relationship, have this self-managing company. And so, first thing I did was I went back to my team, who looked kind of like that, but probably not as many people at the time, and said, I apologize. I said, I've been holding you all back from your future, and first and foremost, I apologize. Every time I handle a tenant complaint or every time I handle an owner issue or whatever, I'm holding you back from your future. And these are really ambitious. These were ambitious people. And I said, I'm holding you back because I know you guys want to grow in the company, and the bottleneck is always at the top. This doesn't make sense for everyone. I can only speak to my company, but I had promised people things. I had said, hey, you can be anything you want here. Sky's the limit. Come with me, follow me. And so I said, I need you to take over operations, and I have to focus exclusively on sales and marketing because I have to be able to grow the company. Because if I grow the company, it grows the revenue, it allows us to pay for more people, pay you better, et cetera, et cetera. And this was a big turning point because it was just a big, moment of like honesty and clarity for me. And I knew some little things were gonna go wrong, which I didn't like, and they did, but it ultimately got us to a better level where we were able to service the client better. And I said, oh, and by the way, we're only keeping A players on the bus. We have this bigger, better vision. We're only gonna keep A quality people on this team. And I played them this, and it's kinda, I think, where my excitement for this came into play.
I've built a lot of my success off finding these truly gifted people and not settling for B and C players, but really going for the A players. And I found something. I found that when you get enough A players together, when you go through the incredible work to find 5 of these A players, they really like working with each other because they've never had a chance to do that before. And they don't want to work with B and C players, and so it becomes self-policing, and they only want to hire more A players. And so you build up these pockets of A players, and it propagates. And that's what the Mac team was like. They were all A players.
Yeah, so I started taking that really seriously, and without that talk, a company wouldn't be doing as good as it is. And culture is one of my things, and I guard that culture. I'm not perfect at it at all, trust me. But one thing I don't put up with, zero tolerance, is any drama, any backbiting, any talking behind. My number one job is to make sure people are communicating, and I'm fleshing out issues and pulling people in the same room together and solving things, because it will sink us so quickly. But I knew I had to recruit and keep these A players, and showing that video, I think, really inspired them and said, hey, let's go to work. You've never had a chance to, isn't that cool? If you're an A player, you've never had a chance to work with another group of A players. You're always saddled down with these people that the boss doesn't have enough courage to fire or make, better. And so I had to find people that were better than me at each function. I've read that you're ready to scale your company when other people are better than you at their job than you are. The other key thing coming up when I looked back is I really needed someone I could throw the ball to. Not just an A player, but you need someone else. I say you need. I don't like giving advice, so I'm gonna speak to myself because I don't know what's best for you. I need an A player who I can throw the ball to, someone that can actually score. I had Dave early on. Adam grew into a leadership position. Now I have, a few of these people. And it's quite incredible. All right, so has anyone read this book, Uncontainable? It's not very well known, but who collects books? Do you guys have a library? Okay. I had the biggest library, or not the biggest, but I had a big library. And then I watched this movie about minimalism. Did you watch that on Netflix? Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, I should get rid of everything, So I only keep a book on my bookshelf if it changed my life, if it was a changer. And so I have 20 books up there, and this is one of them. And there's so many good tenets in there about just leadership and running a company. So one of the things is 1 great person equals 3 good people. And they do this at the Container Store. They pay it way above market. And they teach, get 1 great person and pay them 1.5. And because they can do the work of 2 or 3. You got to love on the team. They got to feel like they have your back, you have their back. You got to care about who they are personally. One of my best people, she's a property associate, which is entry level, but she was so good, had so much promise. And she's been with us about a year. She gave notice. She's moving back to Chicago. I'm like, oh, that's so, I had such she was one of my Eagles. Like I was going to take her to Eagle school. And I'm like, but you know what? It's great. We're going to go golfing before she leaves. And, it's like, you got to care about the people more than you care about, my own needs. Tons of training and attention, super important. The business had a higher purpose than making money. And not making profit your number one priority actually makes you a lot more profitable. I don't like these FOMO games about like, oh, what's your revenue? How much you going? It's like you focus on the way you do things versus some of that, and we'll get into that. But talent is the whole ball game. We're a meritocracy, so as great as you are is how much you'll get paid. And the team must have enormous potential for growth. I don't know any other way to do this than promise people the world and try to deliver. It's like, you're going to have opportunity here. And I'm starting to see that actually happen. Like I actually have a COO, a CPO, Chief Process Officer, because processes are so important in property management, like someone just responsible for processes. So I have like this new level of leadership. This is Glint. They're a part of LinkedIn. They're the HR arm of LinkedIn, I guess. And they did a survey of the state of employee engagement and said, in your organization, what would your employees consider to be the 4 programs that are most important to improving their experience? Career development, learning and development, recognition programs, manager and leadership development, and mentoring and coaching. So 4 of the 5 are all about development. And it's like, wow, did we really need a survey for that? I know I did. I was like, whoa, that's really interesting. But I'm like, people want to become something. Imagine that, it's like, but it's so difficult. But I know Jim Rohn said, don't ask what you're getting at your job, ask who am I becoming at my job? And that's something I try to remind people, at Good Life. So we run a talent funnel. And I was taught this by a mentor of mine, and he always would refer to a talent funnel. I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, what do you mean by a talent funnel? So in order to find seniors, you got to load the freshman class. And so we are really, 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 really good at hiring this one position. It's called property associate. It's like an entry level, you could call it a leasing agent. Like they do leasing, but they also do property inspections and like periodics and stuff. But we've gotten so good at hiring that position because we want to get people when they don't have a ton of experience. We can form them to our culture, and then we can lay the track. So we run a squad model. So we have an associate at the bottom, then a tenant manager, and then a property management executive. And so we show them the tracks, like, hey, you can become this tenant manager, you can work your way up to a property executive, you could be an operations manager. And recently, like, we try to hire different positions. We don't know how to hire, and it's a mess. Like, it's, because it's difficult hiring different positions, but we're really good at that. And so we became a developer of people. And so the great thing is that someone leaves. This was the big test. We had a meeting. This person on my team's leaving. Go sit with my COO. I'm like, okay, do we need to talk about this? Is this an issue? He's like, there's no issue. We already have the funnel. The next person's in. I'm like, great. Because if that wasn't the case, then you wouldn't be doing your job. Like, that wouldn't be, I told Dave that. I like to think I said it in a nicer way than that, but I'm like, that's great because now you're doing well. Like, that's really good because that's how, good job. That's excellent. We're kind of like the Patriots versus the Yankees. So like, we don't try to pay for the top talent. We try to like develop the underpriced talent. And one of the most powerful things I tell, I would tell people before they started, now Dave's kind of doing that, but is I see something in you that you don't see in yourself. It's like a really powerful thing for people. And I wouldn't BS them, but I look at these like younger people, or maybe they're just starting out, with their real estate license. And I'm like, I really believe in you. And I think you have a ton of potential. Oh, and then I hit on this a little bit, but don't send your ducks to Eagle School. So Jim Rohn talks about ducks and Eagle School. So he's like, if you take your ducks to Eagle School, it just frustrates the hell out of the duck and the eagle. And so when someone on my team comes to me and says, hey, I've been here 2 or 3 years, I want to like work up to be a leader, I go, okay, you want to be an eagle? You want to go to Eagle School? Okay, cool. How we talk is going to change. What I expect of you is going to change because I I treat people differently. I mean, all with respect and stuff, but if you're really trying to be a leader, then, I'll give you that leadership development, but it's not as fun maybe as your current life. So, we expect a lot. But just taking people on that journey. And so we nurture them. We do one-on-ones every week. So everyone has a one-on-one on the team with someone on the team. And they're really just open sessions like, what's on your mind? What's up? What's not being communicated? What's not being said? I love that question. What's not being said? We have quarterly conversations. So every quarter we get together with everyone on the team and the leader does that, goes over the scorecard, make sure people get the love. And then I gotta mention EOS. I know this has been around for a while. Is there people that run EOS in here? One person? Okay, cool. What do you think? Yeah, I would highly recommend if you're trying to grow a company, this is like a no-brainer. And so what this does is it gives your team the ability to run the company without you. Not that you can't be there, you need to be there, but like it gives them a framework to run the company. And people often ask me, they go, well, strategic coach or EOS, I'm pumped up, like which one should I do? And I'm like, do both of them at the same time. But if you can't do that, then probably strategic coach, just because, working on, I think, ourselves is the most important, but this is a great thing for your team. Gives them core values, mission, vision, what are the three uniques of the company? And then everybody has accountability, and accountability is the most powerful thing. When we installed this, call it installed, but it's like a Google Doc and meeting pulses. But when we installed this, is that everyone has a box and things they're accountable for. Not the org chart where like what they do, but it's like, what are they accountable for? So like the executive, it's like owner happiness. So it's like, okay, the owner's not happy. Let's see. Brent, okay, you are in charge of owner happiness for that squad. And it just gives so much clarity when you put someone in charge of something. And a strategist, a mentor of mine, Alexander Michael Gittins, who I work with, he put it this way. I don't know if he came up with this, but he told me, he said, the business is an organism. What does this organism require to thrive? Who is responsible for each function for this organism to thrive? What are the bottlenecks? What areas are being ignored? And I love this analogy because I get flashbacks of high school and like having to put these things together, but everything has its function. And so when something's not working right, it's like we go to the accountability chart and see where the issue is. And it's super powerful. So as CEO, I think, and as my leadership team and even people under them, as we grow, I spend a lot of time, and I coach this with my team, is trying to find the root problem versus the symptom. Symptoms are like, I need more doors. That's not a root problem. That's a symptom of some larger issue. And when you isolate symptoms and try to solve symptoms, you'll know because you'll be very tactical. You'll be like Googling like leads, property management leads, like manage my property or whatever the lead sources are these days with that, Google AdWords. And the root problem is always like a level or two deeper. It's like, you don't need more door. Maybe there's no like differentiator in your market. Maybe people don't know what you stand for. Maybe like your team doesn't have core values, so maybe people are like rudderless and you're not getting referrals. Like there's always something like foundational. And so whenever we're doing a level 10 meeting where we go over issues, for EOS, you have a weekly meeting. It's called the level 10 meeting because every meeting should be a 10 out of 10. That's to rate the effectiveness of the meeting. And so we isolate an issue and we say, okay, is this the real issue? And we go around and we all get input, all 6 of us, of if that's the real issue. Otherwise, you try to solve some symptom that's not even the real issue. And so I'm always looking for that one domino that will knock over 100 other dominoes, or that one decision that will replace 100 other decisions. And a lot of that comes from, as we've grown, it becomes more of people, of accountability, of processes, and that sort of thing. Jocko says, if you're in the weeds and the details with your guys, you see what they see and can add little value. Let them plan the details. Let them own a piece of the plan. This lets you stand back and see everything from a higher perspective. And so I bite my tongue a lot, and it's painful because I feel like I always know what the right thing to do is. But I let my team, which becomes less and less true actually, but I let my team plan the details, let them own it. Sometimes it's just like expecting more. It's like, you don't have to check with me. Like, when have I ever berated you for messing up? It's like, I'd rather have you take the shot. And then Dan Sullivan, the owner of Strategic Coach, says, your job as an entrepreneur isn't to manage, organize, or administrate. It's to envision a bigger and better future for your company. It's to build relationships, make connections, and strategize. And when I first heard this, I thought like visionary is a bubble on the ESO accountability chart, which sounds cooler, I think, than it is. But I'm like, can that be a real job? Like, so I started trying it. I sat on my couch. I'd look out the window with a journal and just like sit there and ask myself questions and write them down. And 2 hours would go by. I'd be like, I can't tell people I'm doing this. This is like, my team will think I'm slacking. And it's like, no, they actually want you to do that because someone needs to be thinking about where we're going. And it took me a long time to actually accept that's actually bringing value to the world. And so also building relationships, making connections, and strategizing. Who do you want to become? CEO, sales agent, commercial brokerage, artist, whatever. Something I ask myself every day is, how would the CEO of a $25 million company handle this? And this is an important question because I've learned from other people that to get to where you want to go, you just have to become that now. And so I test, and I have my leadership team test this. Is like, is this how a $25 million company would handle this? A company 10 times the size or whatever? Is this how they would do it? This is Alexander Michael Gittins, actually a picture of him. He's a strategist. And he said, things changed for him when I stopped focusing on what I wanted and I started focusing on who I wanted to be in each moment. People focus on the fruit, but they don't care about the seed in the soil. I see the grove that's possible. This is very deep and impactful for me because I was always running after the fruit. It's like the money, the revenue, the car, the vision board, all this crap. And you get those things by who you're becoming. And those things all lead to FOMO, or who you're being. And those things all lead to FOMO. And the only thing I can control is in this moment. So who can I be in this moment is all I really try to focus on now. It's like how I do things. How gets a bad rap. It's like start with why, and then find the who. But like how is actually, I think the magic sauce is like, how am I showing up in this moment? Am I okay with this representing, everything I am in each moment? And so that's something really powerful that he taught me. All right, so we're all on a journey, and focusing each day on kind of like the mountain is very painful. And so I try to focus on each step and show up in each moment, because otherwise I kind of miss life on the way to the mountain. And so Eckhart Tolle says, true success is not dependent on achieving goals. It's being present and being aligned like in the moment with whatever you do. And what the world won't tell you because it doesn't know is that you can't become successful. You can only be successful in each moment. And I really love that because I really don't like anxiety or comparison or feeling like someone's better than me or I'm better than someone or less than. And so if I can just focus on what's happening in the moment, it's just been super, super impactful. And being here just feels right. All right, so recap, mission, me and team. These are kind of the three buckets that I spend my time in. And so the mission part's really hard. How do we find something impactful, an impactful mission? Mine changed all the time throughout my journey. The question is, what makes your heart sing about our industry? And before you laugh, I was like someone's got to laugh at that. It's like default, I don't know, like late rent. No, but it's a good pointer to like what lights you up or what are you passionate about, which is kind of a blocker. When I thought about this, I love we're solving a real problem. I love that single family and condo management in particular. I can't speak to big apartments because I don't have a lot of experience there, but like not many people do that well. Like it's actually really hard. And so there's very few problems that haven't been solved. And that's like something that needs to be solved. I love that we can be the best in the world at something. Like I don't feel like we could be the best sales agency or best maintenance company, but I feel like we could be the best property management company like in the world. I love that. I don't love it, but it is a motivating factor that many in our industry are very self-focused. Like they rally to fee maximization conferences, which are fine. I'm not poo-pooing conferences by any means, and there's a place for that. But like, I would like to see more, and maybe I need to do my part of like, well, what ultimately allows you to charge more? It's like the value you create, you know? And like, where's the seminar on value creation? Where's the seminar on like really getting to know our clients and having like different avatars and understanding them and delivering value in unique ways? I mean, I don't have the answer for that, but I feel like that's an opportunity. So I think a lot of us create great paying jobs in this room. Isn't that amazing? We provide a place for people to live. Like, so cool. So Howard Thurman, he said, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people that come alive. I'll close with this. This is of something my friend sent me. It's the story of Reb Zusha of Anipoli. And Reb was on his deathbed and his disciples found him crying. And they said, why are you crying? Don't you believe that when you die, you'll go on to the afterlife? And Zusha replied, if I believe that when I was received on high by God, that he would ask me, Zusha, why weren't you like Moses? Then I wouldn't cry because I would simply respond, well, I didn't have Moses' leadership or his charisma. I wasn't him. And if God asked me, Zusha, why couldn't you write mystical poetry like Akava? I wouldn't cry. I would just respond, well, my brain just was different, and I was never able to describe the world in such splendor as Akava. I'm crying because I know God's not going to ask me why I was not Moses or Akava. He's going to ask me, Zusha, why weren't you Zusha? And I love this story because it points to a truth that's forgotten in our world of constant comparison, which is that the only thing we're really here to do is to live out, our unique story, our unique soul print, which is consecrated by, our sacred name. And Viktor Frankl was pointing to this as well when he said, everyone has a mission or a specific vocation in life that they must carry out, a concrete assignment that demands fulfillment. Therein, he cannot be replaced, nor can his life be repeated. Thus, everyone's task is unique as his specific opportunity to implement it. And I love that story because, to be honest, sometimes I think about, like, is this good? Like, is this what I'm meant to be doing? Maybe I should make a product. That sounds cool. You know how the ego gets going and it's like, oh, I'm not, I need to, maybe I need to do a bigger company, or I need to go do this, or, property management, I don't know. But I get a lot of peace from that story because I feel like we're all here on a journey and we have control of it to some degree, but we're all here to play a role and to play a part. And it's like how we show up in the world is really what it's all about, and that we all have like a specific mission. So I was I was meant to be here today. You guys were meant to be here today. And I'll close with one of my favorite Bible verses, Psalm 19:14, that says, so let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. And the meditation of my heart, I love. So as you're thinking about your mission and maybe where you want to go, don't listen to me, don't listen to anyone else, listen to your heart and really create some space to like let that energy flow through. And it might take more than one day or 1 week or 1 month, but really following that will pay dividends. And, you're here to be you. So do you, be true. That's all I got. Thanks so much.